haters. What's up?
What are you talking about? What list?
Apparently, I was named to the top 25 most attractive players in the NCAA tournament. Whatever, same thing.
Yeah, along those lines, were you as surprised as your teammates were that you're one of the hottest guys in the tournament, and Bergen wouldn't even touch that term?
Absolutely not.
And why not?
I deserve to be on that list. I worked extremely hard to be on that list. I clearly am very concerned about my appearance at all times.
Well, one of the requirements is you have to get a pedicure, so is that what you got?
No, I just got swag. According to Marshall Henderson. According to him, I have swag. Well, so now I have credentials for all things that are being said now. There you go.
This goes to Coach Gard. Henderson probably has one of the quickest releases of any shooter you have as far as running up and down the lane. He'll work all game. He has great endurance. What's the key to shutting a gunner or a shooter like that down?
Well, I think the biggest thing is just follow all our rules that we've seen a lot of guys that can shoot the ball all year. Maybe not at the volume that he shoots it. But in watching games, he obviously can get them in a lot of different ways. I mean, and he's labeled just as a shooter, and obviously the numbers show that 72% of his shots are threes, or field goal attempts on the year are threes. But I've seen him get so many other buckets other ways in terms of shot faking and attacking, getting people up in the air and drawing fouls and those type of things. So he obviously draws a lot of attention at the three-point line, but he also, his movement off the ball and his ability to free himself up or run with the threat of shooting a three has also freed up some of his teammates. They do a good job of finding screeners when defenders on screeners get too anxious and jump out on him. So teams have tried different things. Teams have tried to double him coming off screens, and they've found the slip guys. They've tried to run bigger guys at him. He's very athletic. Maybe compared to the rest of their team, he's not the best athlete. But their team is as athletic as any team we've seen all year. But he is, it's his ability to shot fake and put the ball on the floor and attack the basket. And he's cagey enough that, if you get up too high and try to block his shot or rush him too much at the three-point line, he'll get you up and jump into you and draw fouls and that type of thing. And obviously he shoots the line really well too. So he can score in a lot of different ways. Obviously the three has been the highlighted facet, but he's not just a three-point shooter.
You guys have faced so many three-pointers, shooters, and a lot of times with guards like that, you like to run them off the line. Do you think if you can frustrate him enough early that you guys can break him from any rhythm he could get into?
Well, I think you're always trying to not let a shooter get into a rhythm, but it's not like he hasn't been highlighted all year, and so everybody that's played him, is lined up against him, has tried to take him out of what he likes to do. I mean, he played last year on a national championship junior college team. He was the National Player of the Year in junior college. So it's not like he's coming in as unknown. I mean, people have known about him and what he can do, and he's backed it up. I mean, he's been able to get free and get loose on a lot of good defensive teams in that league. And obviously for them to be on the streak they're on, I don't know if there's a hotter BCS team that had their back against the wall in terms of they had to win. Down the stretch of the season, not just into the tournament, but they were in some elimination games too, where they could have been, they ended up being on the bubble, but they could have not even been on the bubble and had to win the SEC tournament. Whether they had been in it or not, had they not won on Sunday, remains to be seen. But he's had a target on him all year, and he hasn't shied away from it, and he's definitely delivered for him.
For Mike and Coach Gard, given kind of the ups and downs of the offense this year, do you think that how far this team goes in the tournament kind of hinges on your defensive play?
Well, I think it's both. I mean, you have to be solid defensively. You can't, we're not in a team that's going to be in a track meet with a lot of teams, so we're going to have to play how have played. And I think the two games, the Friday and Saturday game, in terms of how we were able to take advantage of opportunities, and it also helps when shots go down. I mean, we had some of the same shots on Sunday that we made Friday and Saturday. Maybe not in the first half on Friday, but in the three halves between the second half of Friday and Saturday's game, we were able to put the ball in the basket. And I think that helps. Anytime you can score, it obviously energizes your defense. And Sunday it was a grinder. It was like two teams that had played each other for the third time, and both had been slugfest. And I think the difference was the game here, we were able to make some shots and get some separation. that happened for them in the last 5-6 minutes of Sunday, and that was the difference, which we thought would be the difference in that game. We just needed to try to get some separation at some point, and they were able to get out of arm's length there at the end.
If you want to go far in this tournament, you can't just be a one-dimensional team. You can't just be a team that puts them up and doesn't want to sit down and play defense, and you can't just be a team that is going to sit down and play defense and not do anything offensively. If you look back at our runs, ever since I've been here, especially my sophomore and even last year, we played really good defense, and we were very efficient on offense. That's the biggest thing. You can't be inefficient. You can't be missing a lot of shots. You got to shoot a pretty good percentage. Kind of get hot at the right time, and I think we are. We showed the ability to knock down shots against the best teams in the country, Michigan and Indiana, and we played extremely well against Ohio State. Just except for the last 4, 5, 6 minutes, kind of let it get away from us. Had a couple shots. I had a good look that rattled in and out. I had a few good looks in the second half. Other guys did too. They just didn't go down, and there's some stuff we could have changed defensively. A couple rebounds here and there that might have changed the outcome of the game. But we're definitely rolling right now. We're really excited, and like I said, you gotta be good on both ends of the floor to make a run.
Greg, you mentioned their athleticism. 2 guys in particular, Holloway. What were your impressions of him? And then another guy, Nick Williams, who you guys at least have some familiarity with.
Yeah, I think Holloway I saw a lot in the summers during the AAU. In fact, tried to recruit him a little bit, but knowing that he was from South Carolina, that was going to be hard to bring him this far. He ended up actually went to Ole Miss and then back to South Carolina and then back to Ole Miss. So, he reminds me a lot of the guys at Michigan State. A combination of Payne a little bit, Deshaun Thomas from Ohio State, and Mbakwe from Minnesota. Kind of doesn't shoot the three like Payne or Thomas can, but just relentless on the glass. Both their guys, both him and Buckner, attack the glass a lot like Michigan State does, a lot like Minnesota did. So those two, in terms of familiarity with how hard they're going to come to the glass and the athleticism they can come with. But Williams, I think originally had committed to Marquette and then went to Indiana when the whole staff change took place. So, a very good athlete, both him and the other kid, number 10. The name slips me right now, but I'll find it quick. White, Ladarius White. Both very good in the mid-range. I think Williams kind of gives them some of that junkyard dog mentality, and so does Holloway in terms of how they just keep coming after you. The way that I've seen them attack the glass and against some very good teams really is, and they know that Henderson's going to shoot the ball quite a bit. So their chance to go get their hands on it is to go rebound what he doesn't miss, the 2 out of 3 that he misses. It's not only those guys too, but they've obviously got some other guys and have had some role players fill in. And, for losing their starting point guard in the Missouri game to a concussion early in the SEC tournament, and then have a backup come in, Millinghouse, and be able to lead them and not have Summers play against Vanderbilt and against Florida, I thought really spoke well to their depth when you lose a starter like that in a conference tournament and still able to really not miss a beat. In fact, I had to look back because I ended up watching the Florida game first and then find out where he got hurt at. You had to go back pretty early into that Missouri game and to see where he got an elbow in the head or got hit in the head where he went out. So he, they've lost a kid in ACL in January, and have had other guys step in and fill in pretty well. So, like I said before, they're one of the hotter teams in the country in terms of has been in those must-win situations, and they've always been able to come through.
Mike, regarding Ryan, his free throw shooting, his numbers have gone up since he made the change to jump shooting, but how much do you think it's helped his other parts of his offensive game? He was talking a little bit about down in the Big Ten tournament that he feels more relaxed and he's more aggressive now because he's not afraid to shoot free throws.
I think it's helped tremendously. Just look at the games down there. He did a great job for us in the fact that his willingness to get the ball on the block and be aggressive And the fact that he was aggressive and not always shooting was really key for us in getting wide open looks. His willingness to pass and make the extra pass, and recognizing when double teams were coming, when guys were collapsing too far, and that was a big reason why we were so successful down there, especially in those those 3 halves. Really, why we got so hot is because he was making the correct decision, either finishing around the bucket or passing it out, and that was a big key for us. Because I got a few wide open looks, Ben did, Sam, Trey. You just go down the line, and he was a big part of that. Now we just we got to continue that. We got to get myself in there, Berg, Frank, Sammy a little bit. We just got to continue to do that and be aggressive and make the correct decisions. And when we do that, we're a much better offensive team.
Mike, could you define the identity of a Bo Ryan coached team and how you've embraced that identity personally?
I think you guys can define it if you guys want to. I think we know what we're all about. We're hard, we're tough-nosed, we play defense. We got guys who just want to be here, guys who want to play hard. And, generally if you play harder than the other team, a lot of good things happen. It's something we preach. It's playing for him is, that's something I've always embraced. That's one reason why I came here. I don't know, you guys can define it all you want, but we know what we got in our locker room, and we got a bunch of guys that are tough and want to play.
Mike, going back to October when you injured your leg, I remember you said you weren't sure if you were ever going to play basketball again, and here you are about ready to play in the NCAA Tournament. That being said, how much has Henry meant to you personally this season and your entire team with all the injuries you've been through?
Oh, man. I've been through a lot of injuries here, so he's been pretty quintessential to me even being on the floor half the time. And a lot of guys, Jared sprains both his ankles at Penn State because he's clumsy. And, all of a sudden he's coming back and playing in the Big Ten tournament a couple days later. He does a great job for us, not only in the sense of, physically getting you ready, but he's a great person to just talk to, especially if you're struggling. You're dealing with 18 to 22-year-old kids, and you got a lot of ebb and flow of life with those guys. Me, I've been through it. A lot of guys have, and especially when you're injured, it's hard. You want to be out there with your teammates, and you want to do this, and you want to be part of the team, but it's tough at times. And he does a great job for us, and kind of the holistic healing process, definitely. Both mental and physical health, and we don't really. We're lucky Henry's so good because I don't think so good at his job because I really don't think we run without him. I think if Coach Ryan didn't show up or Henry didn't show up, I think a lot of guys would be confused because we wouldn't have ankles taped and we wouldn't have bumps, bruises taken care of. But I think we'd be okay. Because we know enough rules from Coach Ryan, but we can't heal ourselves. So.
Mike, you guys have been to the Sweet 16 each of the last 2 years. There's not many teams that can say that, obviously. How much value do you place in having that experience as you get ready for this year? And is there anything that you've learned from that you can help you get out of the first weekend?
Biggest thing is you just got to get out of the first weekend. You can't look ahead. You can't look past anything, and I think that's one reason why we've been successful the last couple of years is because we've had guys that don't necessarily know what's going to happen next. Guys like me, I don't know what time we're leaving tomorrow. I don't know what time we have practice tomorrow. I just kind of live in one day at a time, and we got a lot of guys that are like that on this team. If you ask me during the season who we play, in 3 weeks or next week, I'll say, I'll tell you the day we have the scouting report. And that's the way you got to approach the NCAA tournament is, you only get one game. You're guaranteed 40 minutes, and that's the most important 40 minutes of this season, is this next game on Friday. And I don't even know what time the game is, to be completely honest. So you just got to, the first weekend is always, you got to take it one game at a time, and then, once you get out of that, then it's the same thing. The whole tournament is just one game at a time. You can't be looking ahead. Hunky dory.
Mike, we leave at 11 o'clock tomorrow. The game's 11:40 Friday. Just make sure you're there. Nope.
Coach, some of the guys in here earlier were talking about, in film study, different comments or reactions that Coach Ryan has had to some of their celebrations after they've hit a big shot or a three, and maybe telling them to tone it down. When you guys see something like the antics, I guess for lack of a better word, of Henderson and some of the things he does in the court, what do you think, and what do you want your players' reaction to be during a game when something like that happens?
Just to play. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing, is just continue to play. I mean, he obviously is a very good player. You know, and I haven't seen a lot of the whatever he did, the Gator Chomp or whatever he did. But you know, he backs it up. He's a good player. It looks like he likes to have fun. He has fun playing. He plays the game hard. You know, he dives on the floor. You know, he makes things happen. He had a big rebound for him in one of the games on a loose ball underneath their basket. If it was the Missouri game, either Missouri or Florida. Both those games were tight down the stretch, but they ended up missing a layup, and really they were outnumbered on the glass, and he comes flying in and gets a rebound, takes it away from another kid, and puts it back in. So he plays hard. I mean, so he likes to have fun, I guess, and but I think our 31 likes to have fun too. You know, maybe he's our version of Henderson.
You don't want to go there. Hey, as you look at your offense, has it made strides in becoming more consistent? And what's your confidence level if you run into a really good defensive team, like you did against Ohio State maybe?
Well, we've seen some pretty good defensive teams all year. And it's a matter, I think, that the number one thing that has helped us grow has been the maturity and the maturation of our guards. Both the point guards and people that have been, I think, has gotten better as the years gone on, and that's been key, and that'll be key. You know, if you don't have good guard play, you're going to have a hard time being successful during this course of the year, and you're going to have a hard time advancing in tournament play. So, you know, we've got to make sure that not that you look at just their numbers or whether they're scoring or what they're doing, but you have to look at the efficiency and the productivity of each possession. And that was a couple things that at the end of the first half of the Ohio State game, and at the end of the second half, we went 2 10-possession stretches on the back end of each half and weren't as efficient as we needed to be. I think 4 points in one 10-possession stretch and 2 points in another 10-possession stretch. So we've got to make sure we're efficient. I think that's the biggest thing, is we've got to come away with every possession a quality look. Whether it goes in or not, that's one thing. But when we shot the ball well, it's because we got really good looks. It's not that we were doing a whole lot different. It was that we were maybe turning down average shots for better shots, and something that maybe in that 10-possession stretch in the back end of both, or in the tail end of those two halves, we didn't do as well as we'd done it in other times. And when you're in a possession-for-possession game like that one, you can't afford to waste that many possessions with not getting quality looks or turning the ball over. We had some turnovers in that stretch, those stretches too. So those things are always going to come back to hurt you. So you got to make sure, like I said, that you're as efficient as possible, and that starts with the guys that start with the ball up the floor.
Coach, they don't get a lot of playing time, but how much and how important has your scout team been to the team's success this season?
Well, they've been huge because we've got two guys on it that are seniors in JD and Dan that have really helped us and set the tone and just brought a competitive edge to them every day. I mean, those two guys, when the scout team can play at a high level and really competes, not that they necessarily have success every day, but if they compete, it'll always raise the group that's with Coach Ryan, the regular rotation guys. It'll raise the level of their play because they have to compete every single day. And I think that's been a strength of our program over the last dozen years, is that the job that the scout team has done and their level of competition and how they battle every single day doesn't give the regulars a day off. You know, they can't just show up and go through the motions, or they will end up, getting taken advantage of by the scout team because of how hard they play. And those two guys, I think when you've got two guys in that position that have been through it before and understand the importance of their role and understand that they are not going to get a lot of credit. And that's one thing we've always talked about when we brought guys into that position in the program. as freshmen that they have to understand what the role is of that position. Because if you get somebody in there that thinks that they should get more playing time or is not a good locker room guy, then it really can go the wrong way in a hurry. And those guys have done a great job of not only leading the scout team, but there's 2 more seniors you have in the locker room around the rest of the guys that say the right things, do the right things, and have definitely had a huge impact on this program.
What do you think of the bench mob moniker?
Yeah, I kind of stay out of that. I found out about that a little bit when they had Frank he was the international relations coordinator or something because he was back and forth. I heard that. I know Fahey's the holdback guy. So I don't know exactly what titles are, president, vice president. I let that up to them, and I'm probably on one of those other councils or something. They have me secretly named to something.
Coach, you look at right here what Holloway does. 55%. He leads the SEC in field goal percentage. Looking when they were struggling against Florida in that first half, he was just instrumental, and he gets really high percentage shots and post touches in there. How do you slow a guy down like that, especially when you liken him to a guy like Michigan State has, 2 posts you've traditionally struggled against?
Well, I think the first thing is you obviously try to eliminate the amount of times he can touch the ball or limit it as much as possible. And that's not always easy to do, because he moves pretty well. They do a good job of finding him. And he also gets on the glass so well. And teams have tried to double him, and he finds Holloway cutting to the basket. And teams have tried to double Holloway in the post, and he finds himself rim running. So, teams have played him different ways. But he's got, he can step off. He doesn't shoot it from the perimeter, but he'll step off 8-10 feet in attack. And he's got some moves he goes to there. And he's long enough and athletic enough and nimble enough that he can make plays off you, whether it's just a straight line attack or countering with a spin. And Holloway, they'll play him in a ball screen a lot like Indiana would do with Zeller in terms of bringing him with the ball off the ball screen. So you see somebody that size making that type of play. You don't see that all the time in terms of day in and day out from teams we've seen. But I think this is where the preparation of everybody else in the league or the games we played in the league will help us because we can give some reference back to the type of player that they are, like I mentioned before. So, we'll prepare and try to, follow our rules the best we can. And at the same time, they've got to get ready for us too. So, it'll be those 2 battles going at it. But both very good players. Very impressed with both those guys in terms of just the relentlessness that they come at on the glass and how they are just make big plays for them. Like I said, Henderson gets a lot of the attention, but I don't think they're where they're at without the play of those other guys that aren't in the spotlight all the time.
Greg, Ben came in as a spot-up shooter, and I think last year this time he was probably, viewed as that still. How far has he come in the last year, and how important is that for him just to expand his game, not just for him, but for you guys?
Well, it's been huge because you can't play at this level and be a one-dimensional player, at least for very long. And he's also gotten better on the defensive end. In the past, maybe we had to find a place to hide him defensively, and now we don't have to worry about that as much. But his ability to move off the ball, make some plays with the ball, his ability obviously to rebound has been well documented. So he's taken the steps you would expect a player in his 3rd year to take in terms of player development, and it's been one of the cornerstones of our program and how we've tried to orchestrate and develop guys is you have to get better as you go through, and here's why and here's how you can do it. And he understood sometimes by trial and error early in his career that just being a spot up shooter wasn't going to work. He was gonna have to find ways to be better with moving off the ball, and he was going to have to become a better defender. And he had to get better at handling the basketball and making plays and feeling comfortable doing that. And he has, and I think he's still not to where he can be. I think he can get even better with the ball in his hands. But he's definitely been a huge spark for us. I mean, I think the improvement of Jackson and Marshall have been talked about, but I think kind of in the background, in the shadows, his ability to steadily improve all through the year has been huge for us. His kind of incline has been, I think, a little more consistent versus the 2 younger guys.
Just a quick follow. He has that move where he drives and then stops and then kind of spins around and shoots a jumper. Is that something you guys worked with him on, or he came up with his own, or?
No, that's one of the chair drills. Yep, that's one of the reverse pivot drills we do out of the chair shooting drills. So, it's you find with guys that at this level, the ability to guard one-on-one is very high. I mean, guys that can really lock you up. So you've got to find ways to get separation and be able to make plays with the ball in your hands. So, step backs, that reverse pivot, that step away or whatever we call it, those type of things are ways that you can counter, very aggressive play when you have the basketball in your hands. And I think one of the first guys that got really good at the step back that it probably came in a similar type role was Jason Bohannon. We hadn't implemented the reverse pivot in yet, but we did a lot of step back stuff with him, and he kind of came through the same thing Ben did in terms of, I can't just stand out here and shoot because I'm not going to be open. I'm going to get my shot blocked, and so I've got to find ways to create more space for myself. And Jason got really good at attacking and then shooting a jump shot off a step back where he could get some separation from a defender. So those counters are, defense gets a little better, your offense has got to get better, and then it's just a continual chess match to try to improve.
Very good.
Anything else?